Hi, it's Melinda. I got one thing for you. Okay, just bear with me, and it's just going to be a second. Okay, I'm going to take off my glasses here because no, I'm going to leave them on. This is something very important to me to talk about triggers, and it's kind of going to fill in where I left off yesterday. Not yesterday, excuse me, last week. I don't feel that I discussed enough when I talked about anxiety and so on. So I wanted to come back on and briefly discuss triggers and invite anybody that would like to come on with me and to discuss maybe their story or any tips or suggestions. I'd appreciate it. And I'm Melinda, and I am from Hope When There Was None. And this is my page that I started briefly. I didn't intend it to be what it is right now, but I was at an urging, more of a spiritual thing that Lord just set on my heart for me to do, to connect with other victims and survivors, and not just with that abuse. Maybe they had past traumas from emotional scars as well. So this has been placed on my heart, and I share it with everybody else. It's because that I feel that there's a need for it, and there can never be enough of us out there that share our stories. So I'm coming on right now, and if you're going to just bear with me a second, this is going to kind of tie into everything. No judgment, okay? I'm going to sing a few bars. Okay, and this is big. I'll tell you why in a second. I walk a lonely world, the only one that I have ever known. Don't know where it goes, but it's only me and I walk alone. I walk this empty street on the boulevard of broken dreams, where the city sleeps and I'm the only one and I walk alone. I walk alone, I walk alone. I walk alone, my shadow's the only one that walks beside me. My shallow heart's the only thing that's beating. Sometimes I wish out there someone would find me. Said that wrong. Till then I walk alone. Now, why did I sing that? And yeah, I did screw up the last verse. But for me, this was very important to me to do that today. Why? This was one of my triggers. That song, it's a Green Day song, Boulevard of Broken Dreams. I had mentioned it briefly last time I did a video. That was a big trigger for me. Now, that trigger for me is because it reminds me of my eldest son. His name is Matt, and I hope that maybe he'll watch this and get a hold of this somehow and watch this, and maybe when in a private spot, and just so he knows that I still love him and I miss him deeply. We did have a few months, probably about 4 or 5 months, where we corresponded. And that was such a great time for me. We reconnected. We met at a restaurant, and it was just such a joyous time for me because we hadn't seen each other in many years. And he is, if for those of you that don't know, back in 2009, I left my ex. I had been victimized for over 20 plus years. I'm also a childhood abuse survivor. Now, why bring all that stuff up? Again, this comes into play with the Lord just set it on my heart that I need to get this out there because I know that there's people out there that are walking around. They have no idea that they've been abused. They have no idea that there's a name to whatever they went through. There's a lot of injured people out there, and I want to bring that attention to that so people know, and I can educate people that this is what's going on. This happens to men. This happens to women. This happens to people that are old, young, Mexican, black, white, Chinese, you name it. It happens across the board. It is an epidemic, and it is generational. It happens, but we can break those chains. How can we do that? We can break those chains by coming out, speaking out, stepping up and saying, I don't want to do this anymore. I'm not going to repeat this pattern. I don't want my children to repeat this pattern. I'm going to break it. I'm going to do it today. And it takes a lot of courage. And if you're going to do that, or if you have done that, I am so proud of you. I do want to say that it's also a dangerous time to do so. So when you finally break those chains with this person, especially if it's somebody that you're intimate with, that can be a very dangerous time. The first 72 hours are very dangerous for a victim that is jumping out, taking that leap of faith and leaving. But I don't want to dissuade you from leaving. There are many of resources out there. There's the local police. There are very, very gracious people out there. There's some underground stuff going on. I don't know too much about that, but I know that they're out there. There's also shelters that you can go to. Now, there are pros and cons to everything. There's also, I want to get into this a little bit later, but again, we're talking about triggers. So going back with that song, hopefully I'll remember my thought there. But going back to that song, that was such a great trigger for me because I know he liked Green Day and I know he liked that song. And especially the words just get to me, him walking alone, and I could picture him. And every time I heard that song, it would make me get all choked up. It would also start me getting worked up. I'd start crying. I'd get really hot. I'd get really sweaty. And at first I didn't realize what was happening to me, but just hearing that song that was it. I would get a little fuzzy. I would feel a little lightheaded. And from there, it was just downhill. And it wasn't until I later put two and two together that it was the song. And not that anything bad ever happened during that song. Our triggers are really funny. And I don't mean that in a laughing manner, but what triggers us is just the darndest things. It could be red beans and rice, and you don't know why all of a sudden that you're having an anxiety attack or panic attack while someone's cooking red beans and rice. But it could be something that you experience, some sort of trauma, some sort of incident, some event in your life that red beans and rice are one of your triggers. You can have a multitude of triggers. It doesn't have to be just one. Mine also was, I had probably a list, probably as long as my arm. One of them was also, Nextel had a phone, and they probably still do, but my ex gave me a phone, and it was a Nextel phone, and they would have the walkie-talkie feature on there. Anytime I would hear a chirp, now I took my Nextel with me when I left, and I did leave, I did eventually get my own phone. I want to see what... Hey, Mickey, thank you for joining me. Yes, they are. Yes, Lime Girl. Yes. I'm going to go ahead and put this on here. Thank you, Mickey, for sharing. I appreciate that. Oh, I hope you do write your story. Please do. And girl, I know what you mean. I was stalked forever. And, I've been going on 10 years and I still get messages from my ex. I got one this past weekend of our old dog that passed away earlier this year. And it's like, I don't get that. And I hope that, maybe you and I can talk a little bit later and discuss that a little further. I'd love to chat with you. But thank you so much for bravely coming on. I appreciate that. So triggers are something that, that Nextel phone, when I heard that phone chirp, it would just send me over the edge. It really would. I would get panicky. I would get all fluttery. I'd get flustered. I'd get nervous. And, I got a new phone, track phone, stayed with track phone. I would see his truck and I would start hyperventilating. I would my wedding song, I couldn't deal with my wedding song. Yes, girl. They are ridiculous. They are. Yes. And I couldn't figure out, my wedding song. And I recently heard that. I got to speak. I was honored to speak at the St. Jude House candlelight vigil that they have annually. And that was last year. And wouldn't you know it, it was Bryan Adams, Everything I Do It For You. That was our wedding song. And what song have to be playing? Everything I do it for you. And I just kind of stood there for a moment because I'll be honest with you, I still can't listen to that song. I still can't listen to it. It doesn't make me PTSD. It doesn't set that off. It just makes me feel sick inside and kind of nauseated. So I heard that. I kind of froze. I kind of looked like the deer in the headlights. Y'all probably know what I mean. So my now husband, Mr. Awesome, Terry, he was like, "Are you okay, babe? What's going on? Are you getting cold feet? What's going on?" It's like, "Well, yeah, I am nervous. I'm excited. I'm nervous. But this song is my wedding song." And he's like, "We didn't get married to this song." He says, No. My first. This was Rob and I got married to this song. He's like, "Well, do you want me to go tell him to change it?" And even one of the gals from St. Jude House came because she goes, "You look a little off." And I was like, no, I'm fine. I can get through this. But it just seemed really weird. Now here, 10 years later, I'm still affected by some of this stuff. There is studies as well as people that say that however long you were in that relationship, like let's say for me, I was in it 10 plus years or 20 plus years. So half of that time is going to be recuperating and healing from that journey. So Like, let's say it's 10 years for you. Well, then 5 years, it's going to take you. I don't want to say you can completely heal, because I don't think anybody's ever said that you completely heal from this. There are still going to be little instances and times where you might get a little shaky or feel a little uneasy. So it never fully goes away, but it's not as intense as it is right now. It's not as in your face. You might not get as emotional as you would than right now. So Mickey, girl, I feel for you right now, because I know what that was like. I remember. And let's talk about maybe having a kit for you together. I mentioned this in my last broadcast, getting maybe some essential oils. You get a small bag, a plastic bag, get a paper bag if you hyperventilate, because that was one of the things I used to do quite often. So carry a paper lunch bag. If you don't have that, use your hand. I tried to show that last time, and you kind of blow into it. But breathe slow. Make sure you let somebody know that this is going on. That talk to HR at work. Let them know you're having problems. And if it gets to be too much, there are service animals that you can have for PTSD. I don't know about anxiety and so on, but I think it has to be with PTSD. And so you can talk to somebody about that. Talk to your physician. There are organizations out there that you can talk to as well. There's other things. I hear you can just print off stuff off the internet, but you might want to get verification from an organization or from a doctor just to make it legit. Don't be sly and sneaky. Hey, Miss Angie. So when we're doing your kit, your bag, again, the essential oils, a bag, contact list. Maybe for some reason you're by yourself and you pass out. You might want an emergency number list. Also, maybe on your phone, star people, who the important people in your life are, so people know, emergency room, whoever, EMT can look through your phone and say, okay, this is a person that needs to be contacted. Or again, if you have some sort of little kit together, you can have that list of important people that they can contact in case this happens to you. You might even want to get an ID bracelet that says that you have PTSD or anxiety attacks. They have those locally at the pharmacies. I know they make them up. I never got one, but I just thought of it now. That would have been so great for me to have, because of the time that I had one when I was pulled over by the policeman, and I mentioned it last time. It wasn't because I got pulled over that I had the panic attack. It was because I was reflecting on what happened to my daughter. She had just passed on news that she had been allegedly molested by my ex. And that morning I had time on my way to work to think about it. Of course, my thoughts were going, and I was kind of driving erratically because I was ready to pass out, and almost did. So he stopped me for that. But thank goodness he did. I wasn't hurt. I didn't hurt anybody else, thank goodness. So see somebody, maybe let's talk about these triggers now. So maybe it's somebody that you see that reminds you of your ex, or reminds you of, maybe this isn't abusive, maybe you were in a robbery, maybe it reminds you of that person. Maybe you were in some sort of, I know we have September 11th coming on, maybe there are some incidents where you were involved in that. There's some kind of trigger for you in that area. Perhaps also it's a place, maybe it's things, events. Maybe you were in a shooting and it happened on the 4th of July. So if you go to Grant Park, you can't do that anymore. Perhaps it's an activity that you used to love, but you can't do anymore because that's a trigger for you. What emotions? Is somebody angry and that's triggering you? And I got to be honest, if anybody gets mad at me or angry, and not even at me, I still kind of like clinch up. I still feel myself become a little more timid and to kind of like shrink back. I try and take myself out of the situation. And I know that I still do this. I still do. So there might be times of the day even that might make you a little more unsure, might have a panic attack or anxiety attack at that time too. It could be maybe 4 o'clock. Maybe you were raped at that time, 4 a.m., whatever that is. You can try and narrow it down, but you have to think. Maybe it's the death of your mom. Maybe your mom passed and that triggered some anxiety attack. It could happen. Now, I forgot where I found this. I'll have to find it and put it on the main page here. It's what triggered me, and I printed it off. I know you can't see it too well, but it's got a list of 24 things that I thought were pretty darn amazing. What triggered me? I'm going to go through 1 through 24 really quick. It says, I felt excluded, powerless, unheard, scolded, judged, blamed, disrespected, lack of affection, uncared for, lonely, ignored. Felt like I couldn't be honest. I feel like the bad guy. I felt forgotten, unsafe, unloved. I felt like it was unfair, or maybe unfairly it got cut off. I felt frustrated, disconnected, trapped. There was a lack of passion. I felt like I couldn't speak. I felt manipulated and I felt controlled. Now, those are things, and again, I'm going to put those, I'll share those a little bit later on the main page. It's just a little photograph there, but you can try and dig into what your triggers are. What are those? You might have to sit down with a journal. And again, journaling is so great when you're trying to dig in and heal from your past, whether it be just putting those experiences down, putting goals down to where you want to go, where you want to be in like say a year or 2 years or so on like that. It could be that you just think, okay, I know I reacted last week. I cried, I was emotional, whatever it was for that anxiety attack for you. Try and think back calmly. You might want to light a candle. You might want some soft music. You might want just to be in the peaceful area of your kitchen or wherever, somewhere peaceful and quiet. Know that you're being supported. You can pray, you can call on your angels, call on God, ask to be supported and to be safe while you're doing this. You might want to have a special prayer that you say and just ask for that hedge of protection around you as you're doing this, because you might need to feel safe. This also might trigger you too, digging into these memories. So please make sure maybe somebody's home while you're doing this. Not necessarily that they have to be in the room, but that they're home and that they're close. Just try and think ahead. Also, when you're going to different outings, perhaps Christmas. I didn't want to celebrate the holidays, Christmas. It took me a long time to really want to put up a tree and so on, because the holidays, I had such a disdain for the holidays. They were so dramatic and filled with not a lot of pleasant times. So for me, Christmas, I'm just now getting to the point, and this is 10 years again, that I'm now getting to the point where I don't mind the holidays. I like them. I enjoy putting up the tree now. Last year, I can honestly say I really had a good time putting up the tree. I know, and it's different triggers for different people. And just like I said, it's the darndest thing. I won't spray Febreze in my house because it reminds me of my ex. I won't do it. I won't watch The Simpsons. I won't watch South Park. And not that I ever really liked any of those anyway. I won't. There's just different television shows I won't watch because I know they remind me of my ex. And not that they're not funny or humorous, but I won't do it. I won't. And again, Febreze, that's it for me. Febreze, I can't do Febreze. So also, let's think about different smells. Smells are a big thing. It was Old Spice. My ex used to wear Old Spice deodorant. I couldn't stand Old Spice deodorant when I left. I made sure if somebody smelled like Old Spice, and then there was a certain cologne. Oh, he used to do the Axe all the time, that spray. I couldn't stand Axe spray. So something as small as these, try and think. And I know they're minute, they're kind of silly, but these can really rock your world. And it's not necessarily now. In a year from now, this can trigger you. So it doesn't necessarily mean if you just got out that it'll happen now. It could happen in the future. Smells are usually, yes, definitely. Me too, Mickey. Just, ooh, man. Like I said, the Febreze, I did get Febreze scented garbage bags though. So I thought that was a big leap for me. I high-fived myself. I thought it was awesome because that to me was a big goal and in a right direction for me for healing. But let's go back to also medication. Make sure, getting back to that safety pack, make sure you have some medication. If you're on it, make sure you have that with you. If you didn't take it that day, make sure you have some extras. Also, what other ways can you do? The box flowers, they do have little gel caps. Maybe you're on cannabis oil. Can you take some cannabis oil? Whatever it is for you to help you cope through this, please find those. There's many different ways. Mindfulness, meditation, there's the journaling, as I mentioned. Grounding is very good. If you haven't seen Earthing, I think it's still on Netflix. If not, you can catch it on YouTube. Earthing is very good. There is a great deal of science behind grounding. It's not just some kind of woo-woo hippie thing. There really is something to be said for grounding. So please check into that. And again, if you know what your triggers are, maybe you can identify a little bit ahead of time what maybe that you're going to have one. I knew immediately if I heard just a little few bars of that song that I just sang, if I heard that, then I would probably have a meltdown. Now, these triggers also, don't be surprised if you feel like you are the next day, like you were hit by a truck, because you might feel like you were hit by a truck. You might not understand for a week, why do I feel so yucky? It's the triggers. So be gentle with yourself and don't beat yourself up. And I mean that, I don't mean that as a pun, and I don't mean that to sound really crass or bad, but don't, because we can really be so mean to ourselves. So please be gentle with yourself as you're healing. Be easy on yourself. You will get through this. Baby steps. If you need to seek professional help, please, there's no shame in seeking professional help. Reach out to a doctor, reach out to somebody that you love and let them know, hey, I need help. Look in your area for support groups. Now, for me, it was, if you've read my books, and you've read some of my blog posts, I didn't do good with therapy. I didn't do good with counseling. And as a matter of fact, I think I had a post, something about that counseling sucks or something like that. Counseling and therapy didn't work for me. It might not work for you, but you need to find what works for you. I didn't do medication. I did more herbs, lavender, whatever I could find, chamomile, teas, and so on. I went more natural with my healing, and I still do. But again, that's me. My daughters, on the other hand, like I have a daughter that deals with anxiety. Actually, both of them do. And for them, they need that medication. They need that help. Now, they don't do good with counselors and therapists. They won't go. They won't talk to anybody. Not that I haven't tried. I've talked until I'm blue in the face, but it didn't help my girls. They just aren't interested. They don't want to have anything to do with that. They clam up. So trying to find alternatives, grounding. I get them outside. My older daughter, she's on her own now. She's doing so much more better. I don't think she self-harms anymore. My younger daughter, we're still working on her. We got her into the doctor last week, and hopefully, because she's got a lot of anxiety, she can't work. She's just got a lot of triggers, smells, sounds. You can't hug her now. You might be one of those people that can't be hugged. You might be one of those people that don't want anyone to touch you at all because that is a trigger for you. Maybe you were molested, maybe you were raped, whatever. So when I go to hug her, even me, when I go to hug her or tap her on the shoulder, I'm like, hey, I'm going to tap you on the shoulder. Hey, I'm going to give you a hug, or I need a hug. Can you please give me a hug? I make sure that I mention it to her before I just go, hey, give me a hug, because I'm big on hugging. So yes, me too. Yes, me too. I've had chronic Lyme. I found out for now, what did I say? Was it 12 plus years, 15 plus years? So no, herbs have been wild and crazy for me. Now, Mickey, I'm going to have an expert to talk about Lyme disease. And I'll probably do that on my private page, but I'll probably share it here, or let's hook up and let's talk. It sounds like we have a lot of things in common. I'm sad to say, I wish it was something happier, girl. I really do. Oh, so I'm going to sign on off. But the bottom line is, please get help. You're not alone in this. I promise you. There's others out there like us. Find support groups. But also, every once in a while, unplug. Get outdoors. Go read a book. Do something that feels good for you, that might involve maybe just going on an outing by yourself, going to get mani-pedi, writing, listening to music, maybe singing. Do something for you. Yes. All right, Mickey, and everybody else who stayed with me during the broadcast, thank you so very much. I appreciate you, and you are awesome. If I haven't told you that lately, that I love you, well, I do, and I'm so proud of you. Whatever you're battling right now, you're not alone. And also, if you need to contact me privately, please do so. You can do that on the channel here on Hope When There Was None. You can also call me. I do have a phone number that I can give away privately. If you're local to Indiana, Northwest Indiana, or the southwest suburbs of Illinois, I'm happy to sit down with some coffee and tea. We can chat if you'd like. No problem. I'm happy to do so. But also, to let you know that I will be coming on tomorrow to talk with Miss Nicole about, we're going to finish up, we're not going to finish up, but we're going to be entering, I think, our 4th week talking about narcissism. So this was a 9-week broadcast that we've been doing. Life happens, so we've had some things come up, and we're going to broadcast tomorrow. That is going to be one Nah, I'm not sure on the time. I'll have to get back to you on the time, but it's going to be for tomorrow instead. So thank you so much for tuning in. And can you please do me a favor and share this broadcast? And if not this one, any of my other ones, or anybody's that has to deal with domestic violence, abuse, healing, and so on. It's not just about me. There's so many others of us out there as well. We're a community. We're all warriors, and we need to bond together to support one another. So whoever you share, just share it. Just share the word, share the stories, because again, we're not alone. Well, I love you. I'm rambling. Talk to you later. Have a great day. Bye.